In this video, we're going to take a look at recreating this baseball heart. It's a fairly straightforward process, and we're going to be using several different tools along the way. Of course, we're going to be using CorelDRAW is our primary design tool, and with that, we're going to be using the rStones plugin for CorelDRAW. So go ahead and open that up, and here is that rStones plugin that I'm just going to push off into my second screen for the time being. And then I have my own macro that I use as well. And I'll show you how that works here in just a bit. So the first thing we need to do is go ahead and just begin the layout process using CorelDRAW. So we're going to go over here where we have a new document, and basically what I did was I just came in here and chose the heart shape here in CorelDRAW, and I would just draw this out, whatever, basically however you want the heart to be. Now what I did was I had it about 4 inches by about, I don't know, about 3.5 inches, something like that. Whatever you want, doesn't really matter. Now, when you draw this out initially, it is a perfect shape, and we're just going to hit Control K or come up here to the Arrange menu and choose the Convert to Curves, and now you can see it says Curve over here in the Object Manager. Now from here, it's really just a matter of stylistically how you want your heart to be. What I wanted to do was to modify this bottom node just a pinch, and I just want a little bit of inside curve. Just something, see, and that might even be a little bit much, but I just wanted a little hint of a little bit of style there. Now, what I do is, because I'm almost positive I couldn't get the exact same curve on the other side, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and cut this heart into two. So I'm just going to go ahead and the reason for that is because one of the things I've seen with a lot of different Rhinestone programs is it almost never gets the pattern exactly symmetrical from side to side. I've looked at a lot of demonstrations in Rhinestone software, and the Rhinestone engine doesn't get it exact. And rStones actually does a pretty good job of it. So at any rate, what I'll do here is I'll come in here and just create a rectangle, and then use my shaping tool to go ahead and trim that out, and then I can get rid of my box, and now I have just my half a heart. Now I have this guideline snapped right to this bottom node here. We want to make sure that is on the node, which it is. And then up here, I want to double check that this too is right on that node. And it does appear to be smack dab on that guideline, which is exactly what we want. So then I'm just going to go ahead and grab my heart here and hit the plus key on my keyboard. And then from here, I'm just going to hold down my control key and click and drag. And that will give me an exact mirror. I then will take these two pieces and I'll go ahead and weld those two together. And so now I have the exact, ever so slight curvature exactly the same on both sides. And if we look here, you can see it's nicely jointed there, so we have one single shape. So then the next process that I did was to simply go ahead and drag out a circle, an oval, whatever we wanted to do to represent that line. If we go back over here, you can see we have this line coming in here. Okay, so wherever we want that red lacing to appear in our baseball heart, that's what we have to make next. So you could, like I said, you could draw out an oval. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to right click and get rid of the, no, I'm sorry. I want to left click and have no fill. I want to just see the outline there. And then again, you can kind of rotate this and position it and make it bigger, make it smaller, however you want that lacing to appear. I'm just going to go ahead and position this into a fashion that I'm looking for here, and maybe something like that is good enough. Okay, so now we have this side. Now what we need to do is we need to create this circle exactly the same way on the other side. Now what we could do, if we really wanted to, is we could come in and actually only stone half of this heart. But I don't really think that's the way we'll go right now. And then we could mirror it. Once we did one half, we could just mirror it to the other. But I don't think that's what we're going to do right now. So here's just a little trick that I do. I simply will come in here and drag out a larger rectangle. We'll do no fill here. And then, so I have my rectangle here. If I hold my shift key and select my heart, I'll hit C and E. That will, let me come in here. Now I gotta make sure this treat as filled is turned off, so I can select both objects there and then hit C and E. And now my rectangle is centered vertically and horizontally with my heart. And notice that rectangle completely encompasses this oval over here, and that's kind of important because we're going to duplicate that oval shape and use my rectangle, hold my shift key down, click on the rectangle, and flip. And because my rectangle is dead center of my heart and encompasses the entire oval, you can see it did an exact mirror in the exact same location now on both sides. So then we go back to our shaping docker here. And you know, there's all kinds of different options here, but I use the intersect option. And they give us some options down here to leave source, leave target. I don't really get too wrapped around the axle about all these things. They all do something different, and it gets a little confusing. I just usually leave them checked. And so what we're going to do is we're going to choose intersect with our heart shape. And we're going to click on this other one, intersect with our heart shape. And then, of course, then we can delete the ovals because we know we don't need those. But what's left here? And what I want to do is I want to see, okay, we have this piece because we did the intersect with, and we have this piece because we did the intersect with, and then we have our original heart shape. So we have part of our heart that we still don't need. And so all I need to do is come in here and do the trim function to trim away the piece of the heart that we don't need that's underneath this curved. So we'll trim that piece out. See there, we trim that out. And then we'll go ahead, and this piece is kind of hidden back there, but we'll trim that out as well. So now you can see we have this piece, and then we have that piece. Now you see what happens here is we get this little leftover stuff here. And I'm actually I did that purposely. I'm just going to back up a few steps here. Because usually what I'll do is I'll take this piece that we cut, that we did the intersection with, and I'll use it to do the trimming. Okay, and then use this piece here, and again we'll do trim. And now when I delete these and this, you can see the difference. All that little leftover, that little straggly leftover at the very edge is now gone. Okay, so that is the basis. I'm going to go ahead and left click no fill. That is the basis of our heart. Now what I can do is I can take a look at this, and you can see right here that this part right here, there's very few nodes. You can look at it. I've got that curve selected. There's only 4 nodes. And over here, there's only 4 nodes. And this part, there's 10 nodes. And so that's all exactly basically the way we want to anyhow. So we have very minimal nodes at the end of the day, and it's starting to take shape. So the next thing to do then is to go ahead and bring over rStones. Now in rStones, typically what I design with are the SS12 size 3.2, and I'm going to select this piece here on the left. We have to select something, and then the second tab over is our grid or island. And for this particular effect, I really want to use the island effect to see what I get. Now notice that the depth, I just used something crazy. We can't do 30 different steps on such a small object. But rStones is smart enough to know it does as many as it can, given the parameters we gave it, and then it stops. So I just usually leave it at 30, and that usually covers me. So at this point, now I'm going to go ahead and choose this button right here. And you know what color stone we pick at this point honestly doesn't matter. I'm just going to pick something. So we'll go ahead and click. I gotta select my object and then click. Well, it's telling me to select objects, and I have it selected. Okay, so you know it happens. Let's see here. Go ahead and close that out. I think I know. I had 2 instances of CorelDRAW running. That happens. That happens. So now I can go ahead and select an object and come over here to the island fill. All that looks good, and go ahead and it will fill. So now you can see that we have one little overlapping stone here, but otherwise everything actually looks pretty decent. And you know, honestly, almost every time you do this, it's going to be just a hair bit different. So that looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do here is I need to come in here and fine tune, if I can, fine tune this overlap. And sometimes, you know what? Sometimes there's going to be sufficient spacing, sometimes not. And you know, sometimes you have to tweak more than one stone to make room. And you know, that will probably work okay. Once you've done enough of these, you know what's going to work and what's not. Now we have this gap here, and this gap we cannot fill, obviously, with another stone. No matter how much tweaking we do, we're probably not going to fit another stone in there. So that's where we can either leave the gap, which obviously wouldn't look very good, or we got to call on the little cousin and make a smaller stone. So I just what I did there was I just selected a stone. Okay, drag it with my left mouse, right click, makes a duplicate, and now we have a duplicate stone that I can then resize. So up here, I'm going to go ahead and choose 2.3 millimeters. I could use about anything. The stone itself for an SS6 is really 2 millimeters, but I'll go oversized a little bit, 2.33. And I did not have my little lock checked, so we'll type in 2.3 millimeters. And that sized it down just a little bit there. And now if I move the stone in here, now you can see that that stone actually fits pretty good. We could make room for that one, and we could probably make room for one more. Okay, so we just kind of go ahead and set these smaller stones in, and then we'll just tweak these bigger stones, give us a little bit of room, like so. And there's no right or wrong way, it's whatever you want to do. You know, it's just one way to make a little room here. And sometimes, like I said, sometimes we'll have to, you know, move quite a few stones to get this laid out the way we need it to. Maybe move this one a little bit more. We just need a little bit more gap there if we can get it, without totally destroying the entire design. You do want to be careful, and you know, when you're working with a nice symmetrical pattern like we're working with, we don't want to mess it up too much by moving too many stones. So ideally, like I said, you want to move as few stones as you can with, and not as much as you can, so we can make enough room, but still kind of keep that symmetry going on. So maybe there's room there for one more. Probably not. But maybe if we slide some things around here, we can make something work. And this is where you just kind of have to play with it to see what you can and can't get by with. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Now we can kind of fine tune the positioning of these. And with this design, we only have to do half of it, because we can flip it over once we're happy with these placements. And that's good enough for this example. Okay, so we got 4 little SS6 stones in there, and now it's nice and full. Now what we're going to do here is come in, and let's go ahead and pick a different stone right here. So we've got a different stone we picked, and then I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to select all these stones here on this. And I'm just going to go ahead and use this button right here. This is the edit mode on rStones, and click, and you can see that those have been changed now. And then we can come down here and click all of these, and then those have been changed. And then finally we can click these, and those are changed. Okay, so now that's all done. So then the next thing, and like I said, this half is just going to get mirrored over for that half, so we won't pay any attention to that. The next thing is this piece here in the middle. Now with rStones, you can see as we look at this piece, so let me just drag it out here so we can see it. We have a line here, okay? And so what we're actually going to do is we're going to modify that. And honestly, I've never done it this way before. So I'll tell you what, let me back up a moment. Let me show you if we don't edit that line out, what happens? Well, what happens is we'll go back to our island fill. We have our object selected here, and let's go ahead and click using the same settings as we done previously. And then you can see what we have here. Okay, it doesn't look terrible. It's not terrific, but it doesn't look terrible. But one thing it is it's symmetrical. Let me back up here. Let me actually back up, and I'm going to deliberately pick a different stone so we can see this even more clearly. So now I picked a completely different stone, and I'm going to do the exact same thing again. And now you can see what's happened here. Right where the dark red stones were, we now have pink stones. Okay, and again, if we go back and look at the design as a whole, one nice thing that we do have is it is symmetrical from side to side. You can see these center points right here. They're just all dead center, all lined up. A little bit something weird going on here because that's not symmetrical, but the rest of it is symmetrical, and that is one thing I kind of like about it, is that it is in fact symmetrical. So to fix this, we could just come in here and delete each one of those objects away. But what I want to see here, and like I said, I've never done this before, it's a bit of a learning experience for me, is what if we were to take this design and we edit out those two sidelines. So we're going to zoom in nice and tight here, add a node, right click, choose break apart, and then just double click on that node again. Double click, and do the exact same thing on this side, although we don't technically have to. But let's just double click to add a node, right click to break it apart, double click on the node twice. Now, you say, well, what the heck, what was all that about? Well, if I pull this out, we'll see. We still have technically one object, but there's a space in between the top and bottom line. So now, if I come in here, we still have one object. What happens if I do island fill at this point? Notice what it does. See, it completely throws off the algorithm because it doesn't know what to do because the left and the right was not defined. So for this example, we need those lines in there. And see, like I said, I didn't know what was going to happen. So we're just going to back up far enough where we have those lines in there. There they are. So now if we do the island fill, now we get the island fill just as we had. So what we're going to do here is we're going to delete this line of pink stones. We just come in here one by one. I'm just hitting the delete key as I select them. Okay, so that's taken care of. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my selection and get rid of all the stones here on this side. All I'm concerned myself with are the stones on the left hand side, because when we get all done, we're going to mirror it right on over. And this is where the tweaking comes in. And everyone asks, how much do you really have to tweak a design? Well, sometimes you got to tweak it a whole lot. So this stone right here should not be, if we look back at our original design, is the pink and the gray will ultimately be one color. So let's go ahead and just, we're going to right click and choose copy fill here, and it copies that fill in there. And then we have to adjust this node or this stone a little bit to allow some gap there, and that's not going to hurt anything. And then the same thing here, we'll nudge this one up perhaps a little bit, and then we'll nudge this one over, and that gives us just a little bit of a gap there. It's probably enough for our purpose as far as making a template. The more templates you make, the more familiar you're going to become with what's acceptable for a space and what isn't. And then we just kind of work our way down the whole design. This stone we could probably fit right in there. Let's go ahead and drag one of these stones out, change its size to 2.3 millimeters, just like we did previously. And that gives us a stone that we can play with to see, if we could fit one in there and fill in any of these little gaps that might be created as part of this. So that stone's in place. We have some overlapping going on here, which obviously that's not going to work. So let's go ahead and delete that. I think we can slide this stone over and make a little room. There we go, and maybe put one here. And then we can choose to, yep, we can put one there. That'll fit nicely. Oops, we'll just right click to make a duplicate. And then the little stone up here, we're going to right click to make a duplicate and drop one in there. And again, we'll have to fudge all the surrounding stones to give this little guy a little breathing room. There we go. Now he's got a little breathing room, and that kind of filled in that area. And then what are we going to do down here? If we, again, we can address this once we get it flipped. We might have to tweak all these ones here in the middle. So I think at this point, let's go ahead and delete this stone. I think that one's just completely out of place. And let's go ahead, I think at this point, and flip over those design elements. We'll go ahead and flip those all over to the other side, so we have them. So let's go ahead and select all of those, and we'll just hit the plus key on our keyboard. And then if we hold our control key down and flip, you can see we just flipped all that over. And then we'll just come in here right at that quadrant and snap it right at that quadrant. Okay, so now we've mirrored the left and the right, which is what we needed. And now we can really take a hard look at these stones here. And I think what we're going to do is we're just going to position this one up a little bit. And what we're going to do here, I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Again, because I want symmetry, we're going to have to really be careful what we do. So what we're going to do here is grab that rectangle again. We'll go ahead and grab that rectangle. Well, again, no fill. And what we're going to do here is zoom in. We're going to select our rectangle and zoom in real tight, hold our shift key down, and click on that outline. And we're going to center our rectangle with our center of our heart, so C and E. So now our rectangle is dead center. So what I did was I shifted this right here. I shifted it. So I'm going to make a duplicate, plus, and then I'll hold my shift key down and click on my rectangle, and then mirror it. And what that does is it gives me the exact same placement over on this side. And that's just purely because I'm that anal about spacing and whatnot. Now, if I were to slide this stone over, what we're going to find out, let me just undo that, make a duplicate as we slide by right-clicking. What we're going to do is we're going to find out that it extends over the halfway point. So, for what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to say, you know what, this is where we can take advantage of an SS6 stone, and we can go ahead and plant it in there. So maybe what I'll do is I'll go like this. Okay, I again hit duplicate, scroll back out, right, shift key, select my rectangle, mirror it, and now I get an exact duplicate on the other side. And that looks pretty good. I'm going to slide this one down, and actually that was a duplicate stone there. This one's a duplicate too. But we'll go ahead and slide this stone down a little bit, and I think I got room for these two. I got room, see, just like that. So then I can fine-tune this one right here. So I'm just going to fill in these areas that don't work very well. So these stones obviously don't work very well, so let's go ahead and delete those. This stone here, we could probably choose to slide it down a little bit. And then let's go ahead and take these two stones and make a duplicate. And those fit pretty good, so that will work out okay. We can go ahead and delete that as well. This stone here doesn't seem to work very well. Now, as we get a little bit farther down, and again, this is just really a matter of personal preference. There's no quote-unquote right way or wrong way. And then here, there's probably enough room, perhaps, if we do a little bit of adjusting. So I'm going to delete that stone, and I'm going to slide this one over as much as I can, because I think I'm going to need the room to do it. But then I'm going to go ahead and right click and drag. Okay, so now this is not going over the center point like the ones up above were. So I'm going to go ahead and move this down a little bit. So I modified these three stones, and what sometimes I'll do is I'll just come in and when I'm modifying these stones, I'll go ahead and give them a color, because those are the stones I knew I moved around. Okay, so now I moved all those stones around, and now what I might do is come in here and tweak these up a little bit. You know, you can get really picky, which I typically do, but so there, those three stones I modified, so let's go ahead and delete this one to keep everything symmetrical. That's my real objective here. So let's go ahead and select these three stones, hit the plus key, that makes duplicates of those three, zoom out, grab my rectangle, flip it over, and you can see that now that has all been duplicated. And then if I want to, if I move both of these at the same time, then they'll kind of move together. And I'm going to cheat, okay? So it's not perfectly symmetrical, but it's close enough, because I'm going to move that one, and then I'm going to come over here and cheat and move this one a little bit too. So it's not perfectly symmetrical, but close enough. And then I will come down here and just keep working my way. Here we can just delete that stone, and we'll delete that stone. And this one here, I think we're just going to bring in a little baby stone here. And maybe we'll put one there. And we'll go ahead and bring it down. Grab the center point and snap it right to the center line there as well. And these stones here, obviously I can just manipulate, move that one. This one here, I'll just go ahead and delete. I'll make a duplicate of this stone. I'll back out. I'll grab my rectangle, flip it over, and now it's actually absolutely symmetrical. And then we have to decide what we're going to do here. We've got some fairly good sized gaps going on here. And so what I think I'm going to do here is I'm going to pull over this stone. Let me go ahead and give it a color, so I know because I'm going to be moving a lot of stones here. So let me go ahead and give them color as we do that, so I know which stones I need to later copy. So those three I modified. And let's go ahead and delete that stone and that stone. All these have a duplicate on top. All these ones here in the center do. So we'll get rid of all those. And then we'll go ahead and delete these three stones, because that's these right here, these duplicates. So let's go ahead and grab those. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to keep on doing some editing, so let me just copy that one as well. And that will keep everything nice and symmetrical. Okay, we'll go ahead and do that one. And we'll go ahead and color that one. Alright, so then what I'll have to do is I want to come in here and at least delete those three that I had copied, so that when I copy these over, these 6 stones over, hit the plus key, back out a little bit, hold my shift key down, click on my rectangle, and flip, and they're nice and symmetrical there. So that's all a-okay, just like that. And I'll go ahead and delete this stone, and then I think there's probably room. Let me go ahead and reposition this one a little bit. I think there's probably room. I'm going to give it a different color. This is my second round of editing, so I don't get confused. But I'm just going to right click, and there's plenty of room to drop in a second stone there. So this one we can go away with. And then over here, I think there's enough room where we can modify and fill in that gap there. So that one there, and this one, all that can be changed. So we'll go ahead and delete this stone here, and then we can mirror all that over if we're happy with it. Let me just make a small adjustment there. So I think I'm happy with that. So we'll go ahead and select these, and hit the plus key and back out and hold the shift key down. There we go. And flip it. So now we're getting a little bit closer. Closer, ever so much closer. There we go. We'll go ahead and select this, give it yet another round of editing. And this one here, if we mirror it, which we will, let's go ahead and mirror it and see what we have left over. I don't know if we got room for another stone yet or not. I don't think we do have another room for a full-size stone, but we do have room for a smaller stone. So we'll go ahead and slide that in there. And then we can fill what's left here. So we can come in here. I think the rest of this I'm going to leave alone. But what I will do is I'm going to come in here. I'm going to drop a stone in right there. Okay, so let's go ahead and duplicate it. Back out. And this whole process is more or less, I'm not what you would call an expert by any means. So this is more or less just kind of a hack way of doing it, but the end result is a usable result. Let me undo that because I don't think we got room for that without a lot of modifications. So let's see about just duplicating this, because we're going to cut an SS6 anyhow. What if we just were to cut the rest of these in SS6? And I'm going to cheat. Okay, I should keep everything nice and symmetrical. All right, and then just hit that and hit top. There we go. That was pretty good. So when I zoom out here, now you can see kind of what we have going on here. And you know what? It doesn't look so bad. It looks pretty decent. So I'm going to go ahead and take that looks pretty good. I can live with that. And that's pretty much it for this baseball design. We could maybe make one more small modification. I see. If I were to bump this up, I could bring this stone down. And there's enough room there to fill in that gap. And if I bring this one down, and bring this one over, and bring this one over, I think I would actually have enough room just to slide one in there as well. Might take a little bit more modification, but I think there's room to get that bugger squeezed in there. Like so. And basically we just do the same thing to the other side, even though we should keep it symmetrical. You know, and that's all part of the tweaking, going back and forth, but there's room here to do it, so we might as well do it. Let's see here. I don't know. That's one bad thing. You don't remember what you did from side to side there. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to delete some of those out and go ahead and, you know, it doesn't really matter. Even if we do copy extra stones and put them on top of one another, there's a function to delete duplicates anyhow. So it's really not a big deal. I'll go ahead and duplicate it. Hold down my control key and flip it, and then move that whole lot over. And as long as I grab a node and sink it right in there, doesn't matter if there's overlaps or not, because I can always get rid of those using another macro that I have. And we'll go ahead and copy fill here to fill that in. And oops, we'll undo that. And copy fill here as well. Alright, so now we see that we have our baseball design all nice and filled in. Everything is relatively symmetrical on both the left and the right. And then it's just a matter of coming in here and selecting this. So if I want to send this to a cutter, what I would actually do is come in here and just kind of separate this out by color. So first of all, I can get rid of my path, because obviously we wouldn't want to send that to the cutter. So there, get rid of all of our path information. There's only 3 of them. Okay, so we got rid of all of our paths. And then we would probably choose by color. So everything that's pink, um, everything that's currently gray is going to be a clear. Everything that's pink is also going to be clear. So what we would want to do is select one of our pink objects, and if we come up here to the eCut macro, there's a select by fill option. Let's see here. It says it cannot select group. And you know, I really don't know. I forget that eCut doesn't always work the way I would want it to. Let me see if I can come in here and hit play. And we have another one in here, which is this one here, which is my little macro that I've been working on that I can select. And let's choose mark selection and then select by fill. So then I'm just going to select all these objects. I'm selecting a bunch of different objects, and if I choose select by fill, it'll only select the pink objects, and then I can go ahead and give them a color. The actual color is irrelevant, so I'm just going to pick a color, and then I'm going to go ahead and mark another object here, and then I'm going to just select the entire design and choose select by fill, and it only selects the objects that match that fill color. So now you can see that takes care of that. And then all these designs, all these here, also get that same fill. So we just have to make sure that we're only selecting those objects, and again choose that same fill for those. Perfect. Okay, so now I'm going to select everything, because all these objects have an outline, so we don't want an outline. We don't want to send that to the cutter as an outline. So now that is the finished product. And you can see it looks great. And we just use a combination of macros that we had going on there. And it'll cut out great. It'll look great. These, will, of course, will be red. And your baseball heart will be a nice crystal clear. And that's it. And I say that's it like it was nothing. Well, obviously it's something. But it will turn out great. And it'll look great. And that's, you know, just a real basic way of creating a great looking layout. Just using CorelDRAW, rStones. I've got a little plug-in that I made for myself. All these different tools combined create a pretty good result. And you know, it really doesn't take that long. And the longer that you do it, you know, the more kind of automatic it'll be. And there you have it. Thanks for watching.